Welcome to the Week in Review. I am Mamadou Mbouch, standing in, or should I say sitting in, for Ade Darame. He usually hosts this program. Today on the Week in Review, we'll go to the chairman of the Constitutional Review Commission and the press conference that the commission had in the week in response to the defeat of the draft constitutional promulgation bill in the National Assembly. And also tourism. It provides about 20% or so of our GDP and employs a huge number of the workforce. So, and the COVID-19 pandemic has thrown the whole industry into some huge difficulty. And perhaps so many restaurants, so many subsectors that benefit from tourism have actually suffered and have actually gone out of business. Now the minister has come with a package, with a bailout package. Here we will analyze really how big is the package given the size of the problem. And as the COVID-19 vaccine, the search for the COVID-19 vaccine heats up, there are growing concerns around the world that perhaps low-income countries such as the Gambia may not be equitably treated in providing these vaccines. And finally, a Gambian has made it to Time magazine's top 100 most influential people in the world for 2020. Who is it? We'll find out today on the Week in Review. And I've got with me Mr. Sankule Janko. I'm the journalist. Formerly, you were with Dutch Wella. You were their correspondent, and then you were
Africa Democracy Radio.
Yes, and you also work for West Africa Democracy Radio.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Mbouch. The Week in Review, of course, is an interesting weekly program that I've been following for quite a while. So it's an honor to be among the people who have been invited to come and share my little knowledge about the stories that have been covered within the week.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here. So first, let's go to the CRC, the Constitution Review Commission. They held a press conference in the week to give their version, to give their views on what happened on the 22nd September, was it, at the National Assembly when the draft Constitution promulgation bill was defeated. Let's just take a look.
The draft Constitution that Gambians worked so hard on, expending invaluable time, energy, and resources, is not dead. It has merely hit a snag and is placed in cold storage. If the draft Constitution were to be amended today, it could not be described as a perfect document. As far as the CRC is concerned, the draft Constitution, with all its perceived shortcomings, represented the sovereign will of the people of the Gambia.
Absolutely there. Just a snag. It's in cold storage. It's not dead yet. What do you make of it?
It's not dead yet, but I think even if we'll have to revive it, we'll have to go a long process again and to do it. But I think I will agree with the chairman of the CRC, that is, of course, Colonel Suleiman Jallow, with regard to, it's the wills and aspirations of the Gambian people. In fact, currently I read a survey about the Afro Barometer that shows that, in fact, the draft constitution aligns, with the wishes and aspirations of the Gambia. Take, for instance, 85 people or 72% of Gambian people say that, of course, that there should be an absolute majority. That is, of course, the presidential elections. Majority of the Gambians also agree with the presidential term limit. Again, the Afro Barometer also tells you that, about 85% of Gambians are saying that, yes, it's true, that, we should have a quota system wherein women will have a representation in the parliament. Again, 86% of Gambians also, through that survey, also tells you that, ministerial appointments should be verified or should be approved by the National Assembly before they become into office. So these are very, very important issues.
Absolutely, quite fascinating there. And yet, this is somehow, this is the irony of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Apparently, according to that clip there, the chairman said that the draft constitution was truly reflective of people's desires, what people want, that sort of thing. But the people's representatives in the National Assembly, they think otherwise. It's a very ironic situation here.
Mr. Boja, I totally agree. That is a quite fascinating aspect of this whole story. You regulate all the stories on every aspect is perceived that Gambians really want to, want this constitution to come into play. They want it to come into effect. That is every aspect shows that Gambians really want. But the sad part is, like you said, or the irony is that the parliament refused to give the Gambian people to have the say, whether to endorse it or not.
That's it. But now, that's all gone now. We understand that we spent $123 million in it. So now I suppose what we need to think about is really what next?
I mean, to be honest with you, 116 million of taxpayers' money is quite a huge amount of money. But then now, like you said, it's done and dusted, so there's no need to cry over it. I think the next thing is the government should come out and tell us what's next. Because now, after the rejection, the only thing we have now is to go back to the drawing board or perhaps make necessary changes in the 1997 Constitution. That's the only way forward for now. So the government needs to tell us what's their plan, what next they're going to do with regards to, the Gambia having a new constitution that will, of course, will actually truly reflect the change from dictatorship to democracy that we were talking about.
Absolutely. And perhaps just one more thing that we need to talk about, which he also addressed in that press conference, some of the suggestions, even accusations, allegations, the personal attacks on some of the members of the Constitutional Review Commission, perhaps if not the character or their competence. What do you make of that?
I think that is rather unfortunate. That is uncalled for. And that is why the CRC chairman said because he doesn't want to respond to the rejection because he thinks it's political, but because of the integrity, he had to come out and defend the plagiarism like some of them were talking about. And he gave quite a number of examples from countries that are in the Commonwealth that shows that, you can actually learn from other people's, good constitution. And that's what the experts have been advising. So it's rather unfortunate to make certain allegations about these are incredible Gambians, who are respected within and outside the country. So that was quite unfortunate, honestly.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Janko, for your views there. Next to our next story, on the 26th of September, the President laid out a foundation for the construction of the Hagaland Road. Just take a look at this clip.
We must have access to good roads, uninterrupted electricity supply and technology to enhance the capacity of the people and their well-being. Laying the foundation stone for the construction of the Hagaland Road network is evidence of our strong will to ensure that no section of Gambian society is deprived of their rights to have their equal share of the national cake.
Mr. Janko, so is it self-evident? What do you make of this road? It surely has to be a good thing.
Well, the construction of a road, of course, for me, it's a good thing. I mean, I don't know when the road will be completed, but I do know for sure that, if it's completed, it will benefit, of course, the people living in North Bank region within the surroundings, because you'll have to realize that roads are very pivotal in the socio-economic development of this country. Having good roads means farmers can now, transport their produces, from one part of the country to another. It means now people can access nearest health facility because of good roads. So for me, these are some of the things, and it could also create employment in one way or the other. So having, of course, roads, we can have as much roads as possible, particularly in the rural Gambia. So for me, it's a good thing. So if everybody in that part of the country will be excited that at least they're going to have a good road network that will enable them to in their socio-economic development.
Yes, and I understand that actually people lined up when the president was going from Bara to Buniadu right. and stuff like that.
Right.
But then, what was the cost of 1.3 billion? So, but this is it. Roads, you can have roads, but they are really part of a network, a structure, as it were. For instance, you must have also social services, if that is what is going to that function. That is what is needed for, really, right. And all sorts of things, markets and all the rest of it. Right. So, building a road on its own really doesn't take us far.
I absolutely agree with you. I totally agree with you. It should be a chain walk. Right? It should be a chain walk. One thing it's an interlink. One thing linking to another. Building roads is one thing, but having some of these things that will, interlink with the roads to make to actually, unless the fruits of whatever that is working for is an important thing. And the strategy also is one thing that is also important. The strategy you know, roads that are, if they have been built, I think they have to look at how important they are to the people, how important they are to those around them. So you are quite right. It's not about just building a road. It's about, you know, things surrounding the road and the benefits attached. So that one also is, I think, it's one thing that we'll have to consider, you know, when making such, you know, infrastructural developments.
Absolutely. And he's built a good number of roads, especially in the rural areas. That also matters, because we keep talking about rural development and the fact that, I mean, most African governments, in many ways, development tends to be biased sort of towards the urban. So
And the Gambia is not an exception. I mean, decentralization, to be honest with you, is an issue. But so far, like you said, at least we've been seeing that this government building some roads in the rural Gambia. I think that's a good thing. I think this one thing that African leaders will have to put into consideration. I mean, having decentralized development is one way of, you know, fast. I mean, it creates a lot of opportunities for the people of the country. In fact, it also, one way or the other, discourage things like migration, rural-urban migration, for instance. If people in the rural area have all the facilities, or majority of the facilities that those in the urban areas has, there is no need for them to be, you know, moving from the rural areas to the urban radius. So I think these are some of the things that we'll have to put into consideration. Let us not just consider the urban areas. The rural areas, for me, the most important thing when it comes to issues of road, personally, I think is the access to health care. These are for the farmers, the producers. I mean, it's not fair, I think, for somebody to go to the farm for so many months and at the end of the day will have a difficulty in transporting his or her produces to the market. And it's also not fair for somebody, you know, to be in labor and then you don't have access, you know, you don't have, you know, smooth transfer or smooth movement from wherever you are to the nearest health facility. So for me, these are some of the things we really, really have to put up more efforts to ensure that, you know, at least we improve on them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Janko. Now we go on to our next story. Innovation, the innovation of the airport, the airport. Apparently on social media, people were questioning really what was being done, what was the extent of the renovation. Let's just take a look at this clip.
I refuse to quote the amount of money because to me, what is important, it is what quality of work is being done here and not people deliberately misconstruing the fact and peddling what is supposed to mislead and misinform the Gambian people.
There we've got it there, that representative from the airport. So apparently what, $14 million, I've read, $14 million project, and what was going on social media was the accusation was that all that these people are doing is just providing paint. So they felt compelled, as it were, to come and defend themselves and then ask people to go. What did you make of it?
I was really baffled. I mean, I was really stunned when I heard of stories that, I mean, $14 million rather could be used just for painting. What sort of painting would that be? That must be a very special paint, I assume. But like, it is good that they come out. I mean, it is good that they came rather and then, you know, clarify the issue, because these are serious allegations. I mean, you cannot use taxpayers' money, $14 million US of taxpayers' money just to paint. What sort of painting would that be? They said that they were upgrading the airport. Unfortunately, before the COVID came in, from one of the travels I passed by and I saw some work undergoing there. So I feel it is good, like I said, that they came out and then clarified the issue. And then people went. I've not gone there since the completion of the work, but hopefully I'm trying to visit there one of these days, and I hope that it is, like he said, it is misleading that, you know, they've spent the whole of that amount of money on just paint.
That's it, and hopefully that would also be an audit report.
Absolutely, an audit report, and, you know, independent audit report that shows actually how our money, Gambian payers and taxpayers' money, have been spent. That's transparency, and then that also will, of course, boost the people's morale or people's trust in them as an institution. That's it.
Right. And another issue that emerged there was the presence of social media. So this is something that every institution must have to deal with. And we really can't help it. There's no point in keep on saying, oh, people should confirm their stories first. We all exhort
absolutely
individuals to do that. But somehow there are many who wouldn't. So they must have, each institution perhaps must have its own strategy
Right.
of how to deal with social media, because it's a reality.
That's a very important valid point, because that's where I was actually going to come in. I think these are one of the things that should teach us a lesson, that institutions should come up. Let's invest into things that are of very of information. Imagine when those stories came out accusing them of only using $114 million to paint, just for painting. Imagine if they had a very good, communications unit, for instance, that will go out, take videos of the work they have done, come out to the same social media and show that, well, they said this and this is it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
so all of these things could have been done.
They could have been done.
So to preempt
exactly
anything like that,
anything
so
of this
people would have
nature.
seen.
But unfortunately, most institutions here is like we still need to double up when it comes to certain strategizing, some of the units that we create within our institutions in this country.
Yes. So it seems they haven't adapted.
They haven't.
To the new reality of social media in a way.
We mustn't wait until when things are done and we want to come and defend and make clarifications. We should be prepared in earnest so that to prepare for issues of this nature.
Yeah,
really.
So when it's more reactive than proactive.
Thank you. More proactive than reactive. I agree.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of stories to come. The tourism story, the bailout package from the government. How much? We'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll answer those questions.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC Summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the government of the Gambia set up OIC Gambia to mobilize resources for the implementation of key development and infrastructure projects on a scale never seen before. 20 new roads will be constructed across the country, and the Bertel Harding Highway will be expanded into a dual carriage highway of 2 lanes on each side from the airport to Sting Corner. All people in the Gambia deserve clean water and a constant flow of electricity. Therefore, an entirely new water system will be constructed, including new transmission and distribution networks to meet the increasing demand. In order to provide a more reliable supply of electricity, the OIC Gambia project will replace and double the capacity of the NAWEC transformers and overhead electric cables. We will equip the police with modern apparatus and technical training in an effort to keep the streets of the Gambia safe. By building the largest international conference center in the region, a 5-star hotel with state-of-the-art facilities, first-class mobility services, and improving the VVIP experience at the Banjul International Airport, OIC Gambia will position the Gambia as the leading conference destination in West Africa. With our partners in the tourism sector, we will reinforce the preeminent position of our nation, the Smiling Coast, as a go-to destination. The OIC Gambia will create strategic partnerships that calls for the involvement of local talent and businesses as a matter of requirement. In short, OIC Gambia projects will create jobs, boost commerce, accelerate growth, improve the urban outlook and lifestyles of many families across the Gambia. So let's support the OIC Gambia as it prepares us for one of the biggest global events. OIC Gambia, building today for a better tomorrow.
Hello, welcome to the Weekend Review, our weekly review of the stories of the past week, and where we try to provide context. Today, my guest here helping me digest the stories is Mr. Janko, Mr. Sankule Janko. To our next story, so imagine where your protector, your supposed protector, turns out to be your predator. Let's just take a look at this story.
The World Health Organization vowed it will robustly investigate the allegations. It said in a statement that anyone identified as being involved will be held to account and face serious consequences, including immediate dismissal. Further stating that betrayal of the people in the communities they serve is disgraceful. The WHO, which led global efforts to curb the spread of the Ebola outbreak, in which more than 2,000 people died in the DR Congo, declared it over in June this year. However, with these allegations, the organization's reputation is now at stake.
Mr. Janko, there was a report of aid workers in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the accusations, the allegations of rape and and sexual abuse they were doing to the people of Congo, to the ordinary people. Quite fascinating. 2 news agencies did a year-long investigation and came up with this. Your reflections on that?
Just like you said when you were introducing the story, imagine your predator. You are a victim, or you are between life and death, because Ebola is a deadly disease. I mean, the people who are supposed to protect you and turn out to be the very people, who are abusing you. Because according to the story, I read extensively where the doctors are involved, nurses are involved. They are part of the people, among the people who are accused or alleged of being, abusing these women. It is rather unfortunate because out of the number, about 30 or 20 people, over 20 people have been accused of being working for the UN agencies. And Mr. Mboja, as you're aware, this is not the first time issues of this nature happen. We can remember the Oxfam scandal in Haiti. I mean, recently also in Nigeria, in Liberia, an international charitable organization, was alleged of or accused of, abusing the kids that they were supposed to be saving. So it's quite fascinating. UN agencies, including, of course, the WHO, had previously promised that, they will not tolerate issues of this nature. But again, we are seeing it, they keep on repeatedly happening. So I think, like they said in their statement, that, they should take robust action to ensure issues of this nature do not happen. And for me, dismissal is not enough for me personally. I feel if anyone is found wanting, so be set example, probably prosecution would do, so that to tar other people, from making up this exercise. And most importantly, like the report says, now the WHO's image is at stake here. This is a reputable institution, we all know, but you can remember the UN and the US Donald Trump-led administration is very critical of the WHO, particularly when the COVID issue come to light. So now this is another issue. And now, in fact, you realize that the UK Government for Commonwealth spokesperson said that they will be watching closely. They will want to know what the outcome of the investigation is. So now people are beginning to start being alert about the WHO. So they need to be careful. They need to be commended, of course, for taking the lead, to curb, Ebola and all those stuff. But you realize that this is a very, very critical moment. So they need to be very careful. They need to come out plain and then, be as transparent as they can, so that, they'll continue to receive that financial and moral support from other countries different from the US.
Absolutely. It's certainly a stain on the WHO.
Absolutely.
No doubt. But here we have, when you look at the accused, they come from all over the world. Belgium, France,
Conakry, Guinea,
or Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast. So it involves Europeans, Africans, and it is rather unfortunate.
But this is it. Somehow there's something about human beings when people are in certain vulnerable situations, then you will always have some people who would take advantage. That sort of thing will happen. So it is really up to institutions.
Right.
This is really the key, isn't it?
I totally agree.
Up to institutions to be mindful of that and try to come with a strategy. It's got to work because of the consequences, the damaging consequences of
it. Got to work, and it will be fascinating for you to know also. In fact, there was the UN agencies, particularly in Congo, they have put in strategies wherein you will make a report when issues of this incident happen. But it seems that strategy is not working. So, like you said, the institutions need to come up with better strategies that will absolutely, of course, discourage issues of this nature. Because it is sad. One of the women said, she recovered from Ebola, and then she was supposed to go for counseling. And when they got to the hotel where she should be counseled as a victim, the next thing she knows, she woke up, hours later, naked. And so these are very, very sad stories. Somebody you hoped will save you and make you a better person turned out to be the abuser. So it's really, really sad. And I think UN needs to come up with solutions as soon as possible. I mean, the WHO.
Absolutely. Really quite shocking. Thank you very much there for your view. Now, to our next story, the Minister of Tourism held a conference during the week to tell us about the government's bailout package for tourism, one of the hardest hit sectors in our economy, in many ways ravaged sector, really.
Right.
Let's just take a look at this clip.
What we did as a ministry, we hired the consult, not hire, we sought for the advice of an independent person who have nothing to do with anybody. I said, give us a guide, how do you think we should distribute this money to everybody? He gave us a draft, I looked at it with my team, revisited it again, and then consulted our directors. When we presented it, everybody said it was the best. Because we didn't have an interest. We didn't want to be involved in it. We wanted an independent opinion to tell us. Free service, we paid him nothing.
Yes, there we had the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Hamad Ba. So they got an independent person, so one would wish we knew who the independent person is. but that's a different point. What did you make of it? 100 million, was it? 100 million to the tourist industry.
What I made of the story, it's a good one, but I feel it should be more, and it should have come earlier. Looking at the significance of the tourism sector in our economy, like you said, it's about 20 or more than 20% of our GDP. So this is a very, very important sector. And of course, when the COVID came, I mean, just a few months after the COVID came, the Gambia Bureau of Statistics did a survey, and it came out that more than 50,000 people have lost their job, majority of whom come from this sector. So this bailout, in my opinion, should have come earlier than this, and probably, I don't know who the independent, guy who advised them is, probably should be. How much would you say, I mean, how much impact, like just in, I mean, nothing is, I mean, less, no matter how little is less than nothing, but then how much impact would 100 million make when you distribute it among all the sectors in the tourism, all the, the stakeholders in the tourism sector, the travel agencies, the hotels, I mean, the restaurants, I mean, the casinos? How much are they going to get, and how much impact is that going to make? I want to ask. I feel it's a good thing, honestly. I mean, it's really a good thing, but I feel it should have come earlier, and probably it should be even more than 100 million, because the tourism sector, for me, it's a very, very, very important sector. It employs lots of our Gambian brothers and sisters, and so many people.
The last survey I saw, I think it was the World Travel Tourism Council 2017. Mm-hmm. It employs about 19% of total employment in this country. So this is the key, really, because when we hear 100 million, on the face of it, it seems like a lot of money. But I think the survey that they did, mm-hmm. The losses was calculated at what? Wasn't it $1 billion?
Yes, absolutely.
It was more.
It's a lot of money. It's about 2 point. I'm not sure about the figure, but it's in the billions anyway. So you realize that the loss that is approximated, it's huge. Absolutely. It's really, really huge. So 100 million, like I said, it's not bad at all.
Obviously,
if you have nothing and somebody comes and gives you a dollar, you will appreciate it. But looking at the significance of our tourism industry, I feel it should have come earlier, and it should be more.
That's it, absolutely. So here, obviously, nobody would deny the significance of this, but perhaps people want to also know what else given. So our tourism this season is really facing some really horrendous prospects in many ways. We're opening the tourism season, ending of October.
Yeah, the tourism sector last year and this year has been really, really crazy. You remember the collapse of Thomas Cook was a blow to our tourism sector. And then while we were trying to recover this season, in preparation for this season, and then there comes the COVID-19. So it has been a real setback for our industry. And then now, like you said, the tourism season will, at the end of this month is expected to resume. Well, hopefully, I don't expect it to be as 2017, for instance, or 2018, when, we have the number of tourists coming to this country increase. But let's see how it pans out. Like I said, it's not a bad bailout, but it should have been more, really.
Kind of. And the speech as well, isn't it? He talks about, well, he really doesn't know how many tourists might come, but it seems there's a shift, if not focus, at least emphasis to domestic and regional tourism. What are the prospects of that? What do you think?
Unfortunately, Mr. Mboje, the way we set out our tourism sector, it seems like we do not pay much attention to indigenous tourism. We don't at all. The Gambia, whatever you talk about tourism, the first thing your mind comes to is people coming from abroad to the Gambia. This is the thing. So I think it's high time also we start paying attention to issues. We should be proactive, like you said. We should not wait until when issues happen and we start thinking about some of these things. Why can't the Gambia go 12 months rather, year-round tourism, so that when, people we expect are normal. Like you said, we can have indigenous tourism where Gambians will be moving from one part of the country to another, at the same time, generating revenue for us. These are things that we should seriously think about. Like for me, I spoke to somebody about, let's take Ghana for a year of return, for instance. Ghana generated $1.3 billion US 2019. Imagine if we could, take us into tourism seriously. Imagine the number of the amount of money we will generate in this sector. We should really, really, really focus and invest in this sector. It's a very important sector, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, there, Mr. Janko, for your views. Now we go on to the next story. The search for the COVID-19 vaccine, which is one thing, and then when we find it, when we produce it, how would it be equitably distributed, particularly among low-income countries? So just take a look at this clip.
Ahead of a successful vaccine, there is an already looming threat of a lack of fair access and distribution across the globe, what some are calling vaccine nationalism. It is a self-centered approach by countries towards vaccine access and distribution for their own people first, before anyone else.
There was one pandemic in 2009 where there was a pandemic flu, and the access to vaccines was a challenge, and it has delayed access to many countries because of that. So we have learned our lesson, and currently has actually put a partnership among different countries, and many, I think, countries have subscribed, over 70 to 80%.
That is it, our report there. So that's been the worry, isn't it? I mean, I understand that around the world now, they've got around 170 vaccine trials, and 9 of them have reached phase 3, the final stages, so things are looking up. But that's a big worry. And the example the director gave, the swine flu incident in 2009, he saw how the powerful countries behaved.
In fact, it's going to be the same. Let the truth be told, there can never be an equal distribution of this vaccine, because richer countries are making, according to reports right now, about billions of doses have been already secured or presumed to be secured by these rich countries, even though the vaccines or the drug is yet to reach at the clinical trial stage, right? In fact, according to World Steel Journal, the US, the UK, Japan and the European Union, right, have agreed to purchase 3.7 billion doses of this vaccine, and then with an option for additional buying. And China and India are yet to come. Where would a little country like the Gambia, for instance, and other sub-regional countries, where would they come into play? What kind of power are we going to use to ensure we have a fair distribution of this vaccine? The truth is, we have none. This is a country where we are struggling with basic health care, a country where we are struggling with electricity, with employment. And so in as much as it is important for us to tackle COVID-19 and to get the vaccines, so we have other things to worry than. So there's no way we can be at par with other countries who are rich and who are there. There's no way we can.
Absolutely, but at least the WHO, its effort to have a global alliance is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi. So they're trying really, and 60 odd or so countries, 100 and whatever odd countries really signed up to it.
Right.
So any hopes there, at least to soften the blow in many ways?
Yeah, to soften the blow. I agree. I totally agree with you. Like you said, the WHO is always does that when issues of this nature. They always want to encourage, to have that global concerted effort to ensure, developing countries are also considered when they are sharing issues or vaccines or drugs when diseases of this nature emerge. But the truth of the matter is that's just reality. In as much as WHO is trying to ensure that the richer countries and more powerful countries give chance to developing countries, it can never be the same. Just like the reporter says that it's about nationalism. You want to serve your country first before you consider someone else. So that's just the truth reality.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Janko there. Now we next go to our next story. In 2002, 22nd of September, maritime disaster, one of the worst that we've seen off the coast of the Gambia. Let's just take a look at this clip.
The historical lesson to learn is that the river and our territorial waters are the backbone of our economy. And so safety should be, given priority always.
The River Gambia is one of the most navigable rivers in West Africa. But only when our country takes maritime safety seriously, disasters on our waters can be averted.
Thank you very much there. This is it. In 2002, September, that passenger ferry, from Ziguinchor going to Dakar, and the accident, it capsized. Nearly 2,000 people were on board, and apparently the ferry was only licensed to carry just over 500. What a tragedy! Only 64 survived. One of the biggest tragedies in our waters.
In waters, exactly, because in fact, Mr. Moj, it will interest you to know that, Bartholomew Jola incident claimed more lives, that is 2,000, more than, the sinking of the Titanic in 1912, which is 1,563 people died.
Yep.
So you will see how important, how huge rather this incident really was. But then it also comes to, like the reporter said, the safety measures. These issues of this nature cannot end unless and until we take safety measures. In fact, according to reports, annually 2,000 deaths occur because of incidents of this nature, because of vessel passengers, incidents. In fact, and it also interests you to know, 91% of those incidents involve ferries. So you see, most of these ferries, most of these incidents occur when ferries are transporting people from one end to another. Again, 1 year after the incident, of course, the captain was solely blamed for the incident. But safety measures, like you said, the capacity of Bartholomew Jola is 580. Why do we have 2,000 people there? That shows that people are not taking safety measures seriously. So it is important we take these things very, very seriously. These are incidents that could be averted if we take the safety measures seriously. Well, it saddens me that we still see issues of this nature occur, in our sub-region.
Absolutely, and here we were involved in it because afterwards, a few days or so, the week afterwards, hundreds of bodies washed up on our shores, and some of them were actually buried here. Some of the dead were actually buried here in mass graves.
And that's also one lesson to be learned, or that's also one thing to point out, that it also shows the nature of how much we need to invest in our rescue operations, because only 64 people were rescued. Perhaps in other countries, if the rescue mission or if the rescue operations were quick enough, they might have at least saved more lives. So all these are things, or all these are lessons that we should learn as a country, all these are lessons we should learn as a region and as a continent as a whole.
Absolutely, safety
is key.
Absolutely,
safety is one way of saving lives.
It's the key there.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, there, Mr. Janko. Now we move on to before we move on to our next story. Time magazine. Who is the Gambian who's made it onto the list of 100? After the break, we're taking a short break. After the break, we'll find out.
Your favorite QCell service has gotten bigger. eFunkanta. Now you can loan bigger credit amounts to make life easier for you. Loan $75 and $100 and pay later. Yes, you heard me right. Get credit loan from $10 to $100 using eFunkanta by dialing *393#. Anytime you run out of credit, whether you want to buy Q-Power, browse the internet, make urgent calls, or send SMS. eFunkanta is the service for you. Dial *393# and choose the loan amount of your choice with no hassle. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus, the pioneers of mobile loan service in the Gambia. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, welcome back to the Week in Review. Now to our next story. During the week, the Minister of Defense visited the ECOMIC headquarters in Fajara. Let's just take a look at this clip.
It's customary that at some stage you have to visit your friends and find out what's going on, where they are, what they have achieved, what their challenges are, and you have a dialogue.
The defense minister said the security sector reform is at an advanced stage, but added that the reform process remains a sensitive and complicated matter to address. He called on people to exercise patience, noting as the reform process is ongoing, government and its partners need to work with caution in order to complete the process successfully.
Yes, Mr. Janko, yes, sometimes you have to visit your friends to find out what's going on.
Sometimes you have to visit your friends indeed.
What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's good. It's not bad at all. I mean, like, is it to meet your friends to know what is happening? Is it really not bad? In as much as we don't.
But don't you think that, for instance, it was a kind of photo op? I mean, obviously, you're dealing with them at an official capacity.
Right.
So you'll be meeting, you will know what's going on. The relationship is there, obviously.
That could be, like I said, it could be. That's because probably there's a lot of issues surrounding ECOMIG in the country about their checkpoints, in phonies and here and there. So probably that's why. But then I think the government needs to set out and tell us exactly what the mandate of the ECOMIG is in certain, because you have to consider your citizens as well. Because remember, Mr. Mboj, the issue of ECOMIG, the presence in this country, it's a debate, and the debates continue ongoing. And like the Afrobarometer survey also saw, like 50% of Gambians want ECOMIG to leave. 44, however, said no, and 6 are on the fence. They've not decided whether to say they should leave or not. And then looking at some of the issues involved with ECOMIG, I mean, we should, the government should tell us exactly what their mandate is. Of course, some will tell you, no, this is their mandate. I will not disagree if they say the security sector reform is at an advanced stage and then critical issues remain. But my question is, how serious are they about the security sector reform? How serious are they really? I do not disagree if they say, like, the reform is important because we need to iron out, or we need to filter some of the the perceived, bad elements in the army or in the security. But then how serious are we about the security sector reform? For me, that is important, because you cannot be using ECOMIG all the time to defend your reason, as a security, to defend your reason for having them here because of the security sector reform.
Absolutely so. And if it is so obvious that this is what we're supposed to do, what is holding up the process? It was quite interesting that the president at the 57th ordinary session of heads of state and government, yes, he mentioned what still the fragile political situation. What precisely, one wonders, is that fragility? What does it consist in?
That fragility, I really do. Probably Mr. President would be in a better position to explain that further.
Quite fascinating, yes.
Maybe, let's say, because we have the 2021 presidential elections, at the corner, that is in December 2020. Maybe, I'm not saying that, I'm saying maybe.
But then one would also ask, what are we scared of with our army? What's going on that really constitutes a threat? One quite doesn't hold, there's something concrete, as it were.
Thank you. See, this is my issue. That brings back to the same thing I spoke about, the majority of Gambians, 50% of the Gambians not wanting ECOMIG here, because the Gambians believe in the army. They trust in our army. Yes, in as much as the government is saying they need to filter the bad ones and trying to secure, I agree. But then, for how long should this continue? Because Gambians want to see their brothers and sisters handling important areas in this country. State House, for instance, they want it all to be Gambian, guiding their president. So these are some of the issues. The critical is, I don't know what they are really afraid of. I don't know what the president is afraid of. I really don't know.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There. How long? That question will hang in the air for a while. Okay, now we go on to our next story. Time magazine is a reputable publication, and it's got this yearly looking at people who are movers and shakers of opinions.
Absolutely.
And this time there was a Gambian on the list. Let's just take a look at this story.
In June 2020, after 3.5 years of service in President Barrow's government, Tambadou handed in his resignation, citing personal reasons. However, Tambadou would soon pick up a new job at the United Nations as the registrar of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals.
Yes, that's our former Attorney General there, Mr. Janko, Abubakar Tambadou. He's made it right now. He's at the UN as a registrar of some mechanism, UN agent tribunal. There. He's the registrar. So he's made Time magazine. I mean, this is really an achievement, isn't it?
Oh, are you surprised, sir? Are you surprised?
No, at all.
Absolutely. So am I. I'm not surprised at all.
Yes.
I think most Gambians will not be surprised. Of course, with this, the fact that Ba made the list. I mean, the Time magazine's 100 most influential people. I mean, aside from the laws, I mean, all the reforms this reform that he's trying to make in the Gambia before he resigned. Aside from all those things, I think the most important thing that Ba would be remembered, of course, as the Justice Minister of this country, is when he stood at the ICJ. Right, defending the Gambia's, push for, of course, for Myanmar to protect the minority.
So that was a defining, shaping moment.
That was a defining moment for that man there, and that was, whether you believe this, I read some articles wherein people are expressing, their admiration for this man from Little Gambia going out there, something other powerful countries should have done. The Gambia took the lead, and it was this man who went there. So I am really not surprised, and I think it's a good achievement for him individually and the Gambia as a country. Let's put all our political differences aside, and I can be proud that this is a Gambian who made a very important list. And I'm not surprised, and I'm not really surprised at all.
And initially the rumor was that he was put up to that by the more powerful nations who were behind the scenes, really, for that sort of thing. But somehow it transpired that actually it was his idea. It was sort of like his project.
No,
he pushed it.
Yes, because I also read an article where when Tambedou visited Rakhine State, he went and saw things for himself. I mean, he was, like I said, he was motivated. He was motivated to go. Even if it's true that more powerful countries wanted to use the Gambia to have him, but it's not easy. He was bold enough to accept and then go and do it. And now today the Gambia is being praised for that, and Ba in particular. I mean, this guy stood there. I watched this guy standing, and when millions are watching, and I was a proud Gambian. Honestly, I was.
Absolutely.
I mean, for the fact that he's a Gambian and he has what it takes to do that, so I'm not surprised. And congratulations
against
to him.
Aung San Suu Kyi. And afterwards, there was that
an international recognized human right. I mean,
thank you very much. Thank you for views there. And finally, to our story, the UN has got a commemorative day for virtually every event. Let's just look at this.
Access to information in promoting transparency and accountability. The civil society of the Gambia has joined forces with the Gambia Press Union to develop a broad-based campaign and advocacy for the right to know regime in the Gambia.
Yes, International Day of Access to Information. We commemorate everything, but it's a good thing because it sort of allows you to reflect. It sort of keeps it alive. It keeps the flame alive, and you think about it, and there's advocacy work as well done, and that sort of thing. Freedom of information. We've been talking about it in this country for God knows how long. The bill is still there. We don't have a Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, the bill is there. Like you said, the bill was presented December 2019 by the then Justice Minister, of course, of Robert Tambedou, who was, of course, has been very helpful in the pursuit for the Gambia to have access to information bill, of course, initiated by the Gambia Press Union. I think, like you said, as of now, I would have hoped that by now, at least we've made significant progress. More than we have made a lot of progress. It was tabled before the National Assembly, and then the Select Committee on Education and ICT, of course, went through it and then they presented and it was adopted. But I'm hoping that the Gambia by now. The Gambia is the only Anglophone country within the sub-region that is yet to have an access to information bill.
Absolutely, and it also has to be meaningful in the sense that they've got all sorts of acts. All these countries have got access to information. Yeah, journalists will tell you getting information is extremely difficult.
No,
so what difference would it make? Some might ask in many ways.
A huge difference. It's going to be a huge difference. I mean, it's going to be a huge difference for the fact that a journalist is investigating a story that is of interest to the Gambian people, that involves, let's say, a lot of funds, taxpayers' money, and knowing that if I go to this particular office, that will help me in establishing the truth, I will get the information. That is very, very important because you are one step closer to revealing the truth to the Gambian people. And also, I think one thing people are also missing, it's not about only journalists. It's about civil society groups. It's all about other organizations. You want something, you go to a public institution, and then the law Bahashi that they should give you that information that you are looking for.
Access to public documents.
Public document for research, for surveys. it's not about just journalists. This is a very, very fundamental bill, I think. It will make a huge difference if this law is enacted, really.
Absolutely. You see, often my worry is that with these laws, when you go to a minister, he refuses. So what do? You have to go to the courts to force them, or the fees, the money to go to court. so as long as one understands what could be the potential problems with these things, so journalists, media houses, the GPU perhaps could prepare itself so that we can really take good advantage. Proactive. but first we have to pass this. We have to put pressure. Have to put pressure.
Yeah, but it's good that at least we have some good, like let's say for example, Madi KCC is a former journalist. We have teachers as well, we have some people who are very, very, very supportive of the bill, because they know the importance of it. Like say for example, the likes of course, Serekunda, National Assembly member Khalifa. All these are people who know the importance of access to information rather. So let's be hopeful and hope that, but like you say, politicians are politicians. They'll frustrate you if they don't.
I was just about to say, but now they are politicians.
They are politicians, and they can never be trusted.
Not all. Some of them are perfectly trustworthy.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sankule Janko, for joining me here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It was really wonderful. We've come to the end of the Week in Review. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.